Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, which is around conversations around pay increases. And it seems to be a very popular what's the word?
Topic.
Topic. It is a very popular topic. So we're here to Allyson and I are here to go through this webinar, and we look forward to making sure that you enjoy exactly what we're about to go through. So the webinar is now commencing. It is being pre-recorded and it will be available to everyone who's been on the webinar, and there'll also be a copy on our website as well. Now, what I also want to do is I just want to make sure that you can hear me okay. So would you mind putting it into the chat box if you can actually hear us and see us, because that would be very important. So just in the chat box, yes, you can. Thank you very much. All right, we're good to go. So here we are, Monday, the 15th of June. Hasn't this year?
My goodness.
This year has flown, absolutely flown. Okay, so let's get into it, yeah? And let's just have a conversation about how all this works. I'll just get my mouse working to where I want it to work, and happy days. Okay, so in this webinar, we'll be covering how to have conversations around pay increases. It's a very important topic, especially this time of year. Being the end of the financial year, and go back to your strategy, which I'll talk about today. How to set expectations with every team member for better outcomes. So again, we just don't want to give an increase for the sake of giving an increase. Unless you're on the minimum award, and then that's a different story, which we'll cover. And the value of training and development to exceed expectations, because in my opinion, if you're going to give somebody an increase, you want to make sure that they're upping their skill level as well within the business. So I think it's very important. And then we'll do a Q&A at the very end. There's 42 people registered for this webinar, so it's it's an interesting topic, isn't it? Yeah. So for those that don't know me, my name is Colin Wilson. I'm the owner of Key Business Advisors, along with my beautiful wife. And we've been operating for 18 odd years. Absolutely love what I do. It's not work. We do these webinars as a way of reaching out, educating people about what we do as well, and giving them some great tips. That's a little bit about me. This wonderful lady next to me, who is my rock. Allyson, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, Allyson, for those who haven't met me. Been in HR for 18 years, been with Colin and Lorraine for 7, and very similar, love what I do as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there's no 7-year itch. She's not leaving because that's not going to happen, right? So very true. For those of you who don't know what we do at KBA, we are very big on 4 key pillars: business growth and business strategy and growth, people and culture. We're an outsourced HR business, which Allyson runs that team, and we do a lot of leadership and development around training, development, leaders, merging leaders, management training, and so on. But we're very big on taking good business from good to great, as per the Jim Collins model within his book. And our purpose is to take our customers on a journey through all aspects of employee engagement and performance, because we know if we've got really good employee engagement, the performance of the business actually happens.
100%.
Yep, absolutely. And our values: integrity, passion, commitment, collaboration, and accountability. So that is what we live for in this business, and every one of our breakout rooms in our company is named after our values.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. So yeah, all right, let's get into it. So how we do it, we should take our customers on a journey. We've got massive Google reviews. If you like this webinar, hopefully give us a good Google review at the end. But this is how we do it when we go in and talk to a customer. So we'll get right into the very first topic: is how to have conversations around pay increases. And the way it works is Allyson and I will tag team throughout this webinar, so you're not listening to my boring voice all the way through. But the first thing I want to talk about is those pay increases. So I'm going to get Allyson to take us through this slide, please.
Amazing. So for those of you who haven't been up to date with all the new legislation and the new updates through from Fair Work, they've increased the minimum national employment rate by 6%, and all of the modern awards are going to go up by 4.75, which is quite substantial. Not as high as it was a couple of years ago when it was over 5, but it's still quite a lot. So there is a difference between the national minimum wage and the modern awards. So if you need some support in that, just reach out to us. And they take effect from the very first pay cycle from the 1st of July. It doesn't have to be the 1st of July. So if your pay cycle starts from the 4th, it'll be from the 4th. And obviously Fair Work, as always, will be very slow at updating all of their pay guides and their national employment standards. And they normally do that either the last couple of days of June or the first couple of days of July. If you've got anyone on a salary, just make sure that you do calculations to make sure that that particular employee or those employees will still be under what they're entitled to under either the national employment rate or the modern awards as well. So just make sure that they will still be covered.
Yeah, and if you're in trouble, and you're a bit unsure, then we can actually do payroll audits, so we can help you with that as well. But that's only if I'm paying the minimum award. That's what it's about. Yep.
Well, even if you've got someone on the salary, like if they're on the lower end, it's very if someone's on a really high salary compared to what the award is, the likelihood is you're quite safe. But if they're borderline, then you would need to do a calculation.
And we call that a boot test, is that right?
Correct.
What does boot test mean?
Boot stands for better off overall.
There you go. So again, this is what it's about. Yeah. So why do we do them, right? So this is a really interesting because most companies, in particular corporate companies, do an annual review. Yeah. And what happens is when we do annual reviews, a lot of staff think, well, I'm entitled to a pay increase when I do an annual review. And typically they're done around this time, around June, July, or they're done in December and January.
As a general.
Yeah, as a general, right? But, for us, we have a model, what I call a proven model of, how to have those conversations. So why do we do them? Well, number one, for me, you need to be an employer of choice. And I'm going to talk about that throughout this. And that's our mantra when we talk to clients. Are you an employer of choice? Because, what we say is you want to, get a staff member to come and work for you. And then, I had a conversation with a lady this morning, and now I said to her, it's up to you to keep this particular person. So you've got to become an employer of choice. And we talk about things around having a structured opportunity of engagement for managers and employees to discuss job performance. Yep. So it's important that it's a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
We want to make sure there's clarification of expectation and outcomes. That's why we have a PD, why we have KPIs. We put them into our performance documentation, and we link everything back to the actual PD, and we want to do it formally. Yep. Provides feedback both positive and constructive for areas of improvement. So again, I think this is a model that we encourage you to do. And lots of small businesses tell me, "Oh, Colin, I'm too time poor. I don't have time for this." But you can't just have one-on-one conversations every now and again. You want to create what I call a formalized structured process. I think it's great to do a one-on-one.
Yeah.
But you should come up with a model that works for you on how we're going to do our appraisals, and we'll explain how we do it and what we recommend to other clients. And I think it really helps the employee understand their contribution to the company's goals and objectives and the company's success. Because if you're going to give an increase and somebody's going above and beyond and they're really what I call, trying their hardest to help the company, then I believe they should be rewarded. Yeah, providing the company's going well, trading well at the same time as well. And then future training and development opportunities. So one of the things we love to say is, what are some of your aspirations in this business to our team?
Yeah.
And they say, well, I'd like to go and learn how to do a policy workshop. Well, okay, well, let's put you on a public speaking course, and that will help your skill set and help you better prepare for that, which we've done and executed. Actually, we've done lots of stuff. Joanna wanted to. She didn't want to go out on the road, be an outsourced HR person. Can I do payroll? Put her on a payroll course. And that's, for me, that's in today's modern world, that's how we try really hard to retain our employees. I think it's really important. So if I get you to take us through this slide, Al.
Yeah, so employer versus employee expectations, as we all know, they are not always aligned. Employees expect a lot more money, and employers expect a lot more responsibility and productivity. That's pretty much how it goes. But the key purpose of having these conversations is to make sure that you can come to an alignment. And so it's clear from both sides who needs to do what, and then the ground rules are set as well. Two-way communication, it can never be overestimated. It's so important. Discuss any performance differences or issues. And it's something that myself and my team, we always say is, you don't wait till the official review as well. Like if you've got a concern, then you need to have that conversation rather quickly as well. So resignation and praise, if you have these conversations, hopefully you can reduce the resignations and increase the retention of your team. And obviously you want to praise your team when they do a great job. And as we always say, you want to celebrate the wins, whether they're big or small. So you can do that. You can identify developmental opportunities, as Colin's just mentioned, reinforce their value to the company. People who feel valued are more likely to stay in their employment, and you both can walk away empowered and satisfied after the conversations as well.
And I think that's probably just something I just want to touch on, right? So, we see it where the businesses go wrong. They wait for that appraisal to actually tell them what a terrible job they're doing. So, a performance appraisal or a review is, no one should be in trouble. It's about how to develop the role, how to, verification they're doing a great job. What can we do to improve? That's what the conversation is. If they're underperforming or there's any sort of misconduct, that is performance cancelling, and that is done right at the time when it actually happens. Or you're not satisfied with the employee. So you don't want to get confused with the both, because then that's not going to be good for the messages of the rest.
And the thing too is, if you wait until the official review, unless you've got really good system or notes, then what are the likelihoods that you're going to forget?
Correct. Yep, that's right. And we know, small businesses are not very good at record keeping.
Yep.
Right. And normally when we do normally when we do an annual review, we look at the last couple of months, last 6 to 8 weeks, and then that's what the review's from. And we've seen it where someone says, "Look, I wasn't happy with your performance back in August of last year. You did this, this, and this," and they go, "Why are you telling me now? We're in June." That's right. Who can remember? Yeah. So it's just important you get into what I call a systematic approach on how you do it. So, again, I'm going to get you take us through this, Al, because this is what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, it might seem off track for some of you, but it's really important to have a really good understanding of what is in your contracts and your position descriptions. So that comes back to the job clarification. So you can link it back, the position description back to the employment contract. As well as the performance reviews, as well as the position descriptions. It's an opportunity to review the PDs as well. We always say at least every second year, but sometimes it's more often than that, especially when somebody's role has evolved or they've moved, then they'll need updating as well. Or if you've restructured amongst the team as well. So opportunity to re-review the performance review and appraisal content. Is it still relevant? What you were reviewing them on last 6 months, is that still going to be relevant for the next review that's coming up? It's an opportunity to discuss a pay increase, but again, just because it's discussed doesn't mean that it's necessarily a given. Opportunity to discuss more accountability or high expectations. And this is where you can come in to say, okay, well, you would like more money. And we've got another slide coming up that'll show that in a minute. But this is what we would like from you moving forward. And you can have those conversations based on what's coming up. And you can link it to the skill level and the experience that they've got in their current role as well.
Yeah, very, very important. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about this because this is my mantra. I am massive on this, and I'm just to make sure you're with us on this. I just want to know how many of you on this webinar have actually set your budget for 2027, where you've also sat back and looked at future pay increases that you were prepared to pay as part of that line item of your expenses when it comes to wages or salaries. I just want to know, have you done that preparation as yet? It's the 15th of June, but what's important to me is being that proactiveness of a business. So I always say May is a good time where you have a chat with your accountants around tax planning. End of May, start of June is a great time to look at your budget for the following year, and we look at all of our expenses. We look at our margins, our gross profit margins, and we look at what the revenue and what those targets should be. So it surprises me when we go out to lots of businesses where a lot of them are not prepared for that. And I think it's really, really important. That goes back to that systematic approach. So what I believe is you put in your budget this is for the business owners out there or the managers, of what you're prepared to offer as a salary increase across the team that the business can afford. I just want to make that very, very clear that the business can afford, because if your business is not going well, then that makes it very, very difficult, right? But if we have a look at this is one of the things that we recommend. So when we go into a company and to create change management, one of the things we do is we do a strategic plan, and we go, right, this is the plan, and part of that plan is our people management side of things. So what does the org chart look like? What are the roles, responsibilities we want? And then how do we put it into some sort of system? So the system, what we talk about, is either doing quarterly appraisals or biannually. Yeah, we don't endorse 12-month appraisals, because we don't think that, a small business needs to move fast, and we want to make sure that there's good communication. Now, I just want to make sure you understand, I'm not talking about having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, on a weekly or daily or monthly or as required. What I'm talking about is a formalized approach where we sit down. You do it. What we recommend is a good HRIS system where, the KPIs are in. You do the review. You can have a 360 approach or one-on-one approach where you fill out the review before you actually sit into the review. And so you actually know what you're prepared for before you go in. So if anyone wants any help with that, please contact us, right? But my model is pretty simple. You've got a position description, and what does 120% look like in your business going above and beyond the role? What's 100% for just doing your job? And 80% of the role of you need to lift your game. Now, this is not a new employee. This is an employee that's well established in the business. And if they're producing 79 or below, or let's say operating at 50% of what you want them to do, well, then that's a performance conversation, because they're not meeting the job expectations. And I really think that you've got to keep this nice and clear. Now, if I put a sales figure to this, if I said, my expectation is you want to do $100,000 a month. So, in bringing in revenue, if I'm doing 120, I'm going above and beyond, because my target is 100. And then, if I'm doing 80% of my target, well, I need to lift my game, find more opportunities to sell to make it happen. And if I'm not hitting my target, well, that's an easier conversation. So through your KPIs, how do you actually put this into your KPIs, which is part of your position descriptions? Yeah. So above and beyond could be somebody like, for an example, comes to work always on time, always punctual, always helpful, shows leadership qualities, goes above and beyond to help you out. All the things that you can observe as a manager, as opposed to, just doing their job. Yeah. So, and I hate that saying, well, that's not in my job description. So for me, that wouldn't tick it. So, and how I look at, increases when we do our budgeting is, if I've got somebody that's, going above and beyond over 4 quarters, then I'm going to try and give them the best possible pay increase I possibly can that affords the business, because I don't want to lose them. I actually want to keep them. Right. And someone's doing 100% of the job, no problems at all. I might look after them, but it may not be as high. And if somebody's not doing what I want them to do, then, maybe there might be no increase. And there's a conversation that you're just not quite getting there. And I think that open and transparent communication is what we're talking about in actually running a very successful company. And if you do what I recommend, which is strategic planning, strategy of your business, where we're going, how we're operating, what are we trying to achieve, and share your goals and objectives, that automatically creates the motivation, in my opinion, to actually get people to go above and beyond and be committed to the role. So, what we do in our business is every quarter we close our business for half a day, for 4 hours. We work on our business, and then what we do is we go and have a lunch afterwards. We've always done that in our business, and July is a time where we like to go away for a couple of days and go, right, let's reset our strategy, our goals and objectives of what we want to do to achieve for the next 12 months. And we do a collective as a team, and we measure that. So it's very clear that what we're trying to achieve as a company, as a team, and as individuals. So I hope you've got a lot out of what I've just said, and happy to have a conversation with anyone that's on this webinar. What I can tell you is, when we've implemented this strategy into businesses, what we see is growth. We see people checking out because, you know what, I don't want to work that hard. I'm okay with that. And we see people coming in and just leapfrogging, wanting to go above and beyond. It's all part of strategy.
Yeah, isn't it? And I think it's also important to know that when we see this, it happens time and time again, time and time again. And it's always the staff that you want to keep that step up, and you get their buy-in. It's the ones that, you know, are struggling behind that start to go, you know what, it's just too hard. And they start.
And I've really got a good example of a customer that we've been working with, right? So there's a person in this business where I've said to her, you know, the next step for you is, rather than the owner doing the reporting of your department, how about you start doing the reporting on your department and showing your capability of what you can actually do, getting the verification. Now, I can tell you this is live. You know, at a quarterly meeting that I was at, this person got up and spoke about her department, the numbers, the figures, what they're trying to do, the whole lot. And the owner said to me, man, I'm just blown away. He goes, how did you do that? And I go, that's motivation. That is what I call commitment, and getting somebody to take, you know, get out of their comfort zone a little bit and go above and beyond. And that's a very good example of what we're talking about here. So, you know, what promise, and when we look, Allyson and I, when we go into companies and the whole HR team, one of the things we say, well, what promises have you made to your team, right? So, Al, if you want to go through this, that'd be great.
Something we live and die by is do not over-promise and under-deliver. Your team have a very long memory, and they will get really upset by that. So don't make promises you cannot keep. So as Colin mentioned, if you need to review your budgets with your bookkeeper or your accountant, make sure that you've budgeted what the business can afford. And if you're not too certain what that would be, your accountant should be able to help support you on that. Make sure that you document your conversations. In my team, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. So, and that does, not necessarily all the bad things either. Like, you want to go back and reward those for the good things too. So don't string a staff member along or move the goalposts halfway through a session. You're very likely going to lose them when you keep doing that as well. Be credible and stick to your word and your commitment, and that shows loyalty to them, but it also shows your ethics as well. And that also goes towards being an employer of choice and follow best practices.
Yep. And we've seen owners get up and say to the team, we're going to do some training, we're going to do this, we hit this target, we're going to do this, and deliver nothing. Right. And then what happens is, at the end of the year, you know, some of their key staff members have checked out and left them, and they don't understand why. So, you know, communication is a big thing. That's why I like strategy. And again, you know, we've worked with companies, and I've even done it myself, saying, I know we want to achieve this quarter, but the business financially can't do it right now, but it's on the agenda for next quarter. So we're actually constantly having those conversations and keeping your team updated about what's to happen. So if you've got any questions from our very first topic so far, and feel free to put them into the chat box. More than happy to answer some questions as we're going. All right, we're on good track here, Allyson. So topic 2, how to set expectations with every team member for better outcomes. And I think that is the key. How do you set those expectations? So, you know, one of the things that we encourage, you know, when someone starts in a business and you induct them, one of the things that we see is companies just don't explain their performance management process on how we actually do it. And by the way, performance management is everything from recruitment right through to termination. Yeah. So it's not performance cancelling. It's just it's managing their performance, trying to get them to that next level. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, you know, to me, this is everything, right? Why is mission, vision, and values important? Well, for me, as an overall company, it sets high standards within your company or organisation. So our mission is taking business from good to great. So when we have a team meeting and everything like that, we talk about good to great moments, right? And I think that's really, really important, how you bring that language right through your business. Everyone knows what the company is aiming for. So again, if you've got some sort of vision, right, of where we want to go, this is what we're actually trying to achieve as a business. And to me, the values is everything, right? Because values drive the right behaviors within. So if we have somebody comes into our business and they don't demonstrate, you know, some of those words of commitment or integrity or, what we talk about, collaboration, then pretty much they can't stay, because that's part of our mantra of what we do. So I think it's important. So what's that old saying? Hire slowly, fire fast, right? So if they're not part of your values, then again, that's a conversation that you need to have. And again, that's where, it's not about me, it's about the team, and it's about what we can do together. Everyone achieves more, as the saying goes. And we link everything back to our why. Why do we do what we do, right? In our business, we just want to be the most resourceful company out there in professional services that helps small, medium-sized businesses. That's our mantra, or industry groups, associations. We work very much, and franchises. We work very, very closely with them. And being resourceful is very, very important because that backs our customer service, customer engagement of what we want to achieve. As I said before, it is easy to bring this terminology into your conversations around meetings, training sessions within your business, and performance conversations. So it sets the standards with your clients of what you actually want to achieve. So if I've got a team member that's not contributing, where we hear that's not my job, or that's not my customer, or I'm not going to answer the phone because I don't want to answer the phone. Well, that part of, when we talk about salary reviews or wage increases and stuff like that, well, in my opinion, if they're not prepared to do it, you should be having a performance counselling conversation. But that also will affect somebody's bonus or remuneration in the future. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. But when we go into companies, we do that. We just did a strategic planning session for a company who's got them. But they don't talk about them. They're not up on the wall. They don't live and breathe it. And again, that's something that we're going to introduce. By the way, I'm really giving away some IP here, but all of the position descriptions that we develop for our clients, we put in mission, vision, and values into the PDs because that's why, because that's how much we value in actually doing it, because we want it to drive the right behaviours.
Oh, and you want to set the ground rules right from the start too.
100%.
If they're not going to agree to your mission, vision, values, then you shouldn't be employing them.
No, we don't want the eyes. Okay, Al, can you take us through these?
Okay.
This is your baby, HR best practices.
So recommend you review and update your position descriptions every 2 years, as I mentioned before, and that would be at the very latest. If there's any changes beforehand, obviously don't wait. And make sure that they're reflective of your up-to-date organisational chart. Review your company policies and procedures every 2 years as well. And if there's any legislative changes or in new legislation that comes through, is psychosocial, the right to disconnect, all those things, positive duties. Make sure you don't wait until your next review. Make sure that you get them out ASAP, and not too dissimilar to COVID when we all had to get around that as well. Reinduct, re-release the policies. You can do that every 12 months, and you can do a workshop going around that, and you can get everyone to sign off on it. So any changes, the team have signed off on it as well. So that comes back to the performance counselling side of things, and that makes a lot smoother for you to be able to do that moving forward. And you can test your team's knowledge as well. And this is something we do enjoy doing on a regular basis, is making sure that they do know what are your standards and your policies and your procedures, and they you can test their knowledge as well, make sure that they're up to date from their side.
I think it's really important. I mean, when we look at some of this stuff like strategy, so at the moment we're doing a lot of strategic plans with clients who did strategic plans 2 or 3 years ago, and they want to redo it again. But that process of review your org chart, and if you see vacancy opportunities, then put the vacancy opportunities in, because that's a huge motivation for people to step up, and a great conversation to have with your employees during a review. So one particular client we've worked with, they've put they've put a few vacancy emerging leaders roles in their org chart that's been presented to the team. Wants an expression of interest of who's interested, and part of the criteria is you've got to go and do an emerging leaders program first and pass that before there's any conversation of any formal increase, which I think is a good strategy what to do. So we're not going to give the role to somebody. We want you to earn the role, and again, there's reward effort at the end. And in relation to the policies and the PDs, so where we see companies go into trouble is when they've moved a role into another position or a higher position. They've given an increase, but they've never updated the PD or changed the role of the PD, or put more accountability through the KPIs. So again, that makes it very, very hard to have a conversation with somebody about a pay increase or reviewing. Yeah. So we see that commonly.
Constantly.
And there's nothing worse than going into a company where someone started 7 years ago, they've had 2 role changes, but the PD's never been updated. So again, that's why we just say, what is good best practices? Well, best practices is, we'll just we'll review our policies every 2 years, and in between every second year, we'll actually also relook at our org chart and our position descriptions, and that's how we maintain a lot of our clients by having that operating rhythm working for them. So I just want to make sure that it's really important that you actually understand that. And policy workshops. So if you don't understand the policy workshops, the team here at KBA, we do lots of policy workshops for our clients because, again, the work cover that comes through this business, the misbehaviours, the bullying, harassment, all of that, if something goes wrong, Fair Work want us not the ombudsman, the commission want to see that you've actually done something to try and prevent that happening in your own workplace. So policy workshops are really, really important. And people say to me, Colin, but they're boring. So we do them, and we try and make them a bit more upbeat and fun, and maybe with a bit of a team building activity at the end that creates a bit of a message. Okay, so this is recruitment, Al. So away you go.
And you mentioned earlier about employ slowly.
High five fast. Yeah.
It's so true, and we get it. It's really difficult sometimes, especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, you're probably hemorrhaging at certain times, and you need that extra person so that you can actually get back to working on the business, not in the business. But unfortunately, if you've employed the wrong person, then it's a lot more difficult, a lot more time consuming for you to get back on board. So the recruitment process is critical to help support you with that. So be thorough throughout your entire recruitment process. Ensure that you're advertising what you're looking for. And we've seen this so many times where clients will say, well, here's my job ad that I've put up, but this is what I'm looking for, and they're not married up, and then they cannot understand why they're not getting the candidates at the level that they're looking for as well. Again, don't change the goalposts throughout the process. Make sure that you're crystal clear right from the start, and you follow a structured recruitment process. And that's do a job ad, make sure you request a covering letter. People are very lazy these days, especially with AI, and do phone screens before you even get to the interview process. Are they worthy of going to the next stage as well? The first interview doesn't always have to be, or it doesn't always isn't always possible to do in person, but where it's not in person, try and do a virtual so that at least you can see the body language. And that's quite important from us, being able to see, you'll be able to see how engaged they are at that point as well. Second interview, most of the time it's the final, depending on what the role is. Sometimes there's more. You might even have a board, a panel that do a third interview or whatever. Off the job with the expectations and make sure that those expectations are clearly and they're high. And then so it's very clear right from the very beginning. Do your due diligence. So do your reference checks. If you need to do police checks and bankruptcy checks, make sure you've got all of those before you even put this employee on, as well as any visa checks that you might do. Someone might be on a student visa, they're restricted to the hours that they're allowed to do during school term. Only just school term. Don't pick the best of the bad bunch. If you cannot find what you're looking for, as painful as it could be, try to start again. Again, I'd sound hypocritical coming from us. We've lived it, we've breathed it, we've had to wait a long time over the years to get our right employee. And it is painful, we get it, but it is worth it in the end as well.
Yeah, we actually had that with, if I can say, after COVID, we were desperately looking for somebody, and it was the last day before it expired, 4 weeks later, and this person applied for the job, and we were about to re-advertise again, and this person's an absolute gun in our business. So you never can tell when someone's going to apply and that right person comes along. But why is this important? Well, it's important because it's all about setting those expectations for that person coming in. And one of the things that we see a lot is, due to pay secrecy, we see a lot of new employees coming on, and if they're paid more than some of your current staff, and that's a hidden secret, then that also can create some issues as well within your business. So I think that's important that you get that communication out. So the benefits of structured reviews, right? So quarterly or 6 monthly, whatever you want to do. And for me, I think anyone that's billing in your business, you should do quarterly, and unless your team is really, really settled, but a minimum 6 months. So I think is really, really important. So again, the benefits of the structured reviews and appraisals, it demonstrates you have a professional structured approach. This is our approach, and this is what we're here to do. It also shows that you care and want to develop your team. I think that is the big one, right? So again, interesting, with the recruitment, when we ask somebody, why are you leaving? The most common answer we get is it's the culture's not good, or, I've not had any conversation about my performance or know where the company's going. That's why I'm leaving. So, all the signs are there of the work that we do. For me, this is it. Number one, it increases the intellectual property of your company, because IP is everything. So, we've got a couple of staff members. We've got one staff member's gone overseas right now, so we're picking up the slack. So again, when you've got good IP in the business, you can actually delegate that. Because everyone knows the process and the systems. When you've got a team of new people, that makes it very, very, very hard. It's a great way to put measures in place, and if it's a structured and where it's structured, to acknowledge and praise team members for their efforts. And again, for the clients who are on this hookup, who we do work with, know that every quarter I like to reflect back. These are the things. Here's some of the things we've achieved as a business. Here's some of the things that some of our staff members achieved, anniversaries, all those little things that are important. I think it's massively. And sometimes we do get caught up being busy, but we do our best to try and acknowledge that. So again, I think it's important, and it links back to that being an employer of choice. If you want to retain staff, you need to look after them, you need to grow them, you need to give them the increases. You got to think about all the media noises out there at the moment, inflation, taxes, all the things that are happening, interest rates, all of that is putting pressure on everyone. A lot of staff don't realise how much pressure that is put on a business. They think just because you run a business, the business can make a lot of money and afford it. Well, it doesn't work that way. That's why, again, strategy, targets, all those things are very, very important, which links back to communication. Okay, and then the last one, being the tips of being an employer of choice. Al, if you want to take us through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So it shows that you've got a business strategy within the company, and we always praise our clients when they've shared that with the team, because it shows that you value them as well. It demonstrates your leadership and that of your team members, supports the goals and objectives that have been achieved as well. So again, celebrate the wins. Helps with effective communication. This is king in my world. Builds great team culture, and we see that time and time again, which also again leads into staff retention, which goes back to that IP that Colin was saying. You want to attract the right people that come to work for you, and this actually helps to support that. You deliver a great customer output that also helps to grow your business. It increases the bottom line profits of the business, and by that, what we mean by that is when you've got a successful team, they're very productive and they're happy, and then they work a lot better than those who are not. So, and it makes you feel good as an employer, doesn't it?
Well, that's right. Well, you want to feel good as an employer. I mean, there are times we don't feel good as an employer. I can tell you that. Just some of the pressures that we're put under. But I think it's really, really important. And just on another note, Al, for those of you who might be struggling a little bit, because we're getting a lot of calls from companies that are struggling. So, some of the things that I've been working on, and I know so you have too, Al, is maybe introducing some sort of bonus structure. So we're working with a company that's never done it before. And put a bonus structure in. So, if we achieve as a company these goals, we get rewarded. So I know that's another way of, what's the word? The business is not, you don't want to tell your team the business is not traveling well, right? Because you don't want people leaving. But if you're open and transparent, saying, look, it's a bit tough at the moment, the whole lot. However, I want to introduce something because I still want to reward you. I still want to do, but we need to get to this level. If that's done right with the right communication, you will retain the team. And then when the business is back to where you want it to be, then you can do the reviews.
And it's a really good compromise as well.
It is.
The business can do what it can afford. So when the business is bringing in more money, then you can reward for that at that point in time. Because once you give a pay increase, you can't go back.
No,
it's done. It's done.
Yeah, and then super goes on top of that, and all the above, and we've got the payday, which we're going to talk about a bit later. I'll tell you what not to do, and we saw this. I've seen this many times where the owners told the business owners, you can't I can't afford to give you a pay increase. And then, 2 weeks later, a brand new car rocks up or a boat's been purchased, or a plane, right? So we've seen it with an aeroplane, right? Can't afford it.
No.
Business not traveling well and buys an aeroplane.
My new Cessna.
Look at my new Cessna, right? I've just got my pilot's license. So that sends a very bad message. And I'll tell you, it will create a walkout because we've seen that happen. Okay, so I hope you like that topic of topic 2. And again, feel free to ask any questions in our chat box or in the question box. Because we want to try and give you as much value as possible. Okay, so the next one's around the value of training development to exceed expectations. So I think what's important is, if we want to give an increase to somebody or we want to just change our business to improve, right? Let's start doing some training in with the team. And I have a saying. So when I just talk about product training, a salesperson or a consultant or whoever it might be in your company, a receptionist, will never recommend a product that they don't know or understand.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, you could be missing out on revenue opportunities through the lack of that training. So for me, training development is everything, and it's about staff retention. Yeah. So again, we want to train them, we want to develop them, and we want to reward them for them lifting their skill levels. Yeah. So again, staff retention creates, to me, and we've spoken before, intellectual property within your business, a higher client satisfaction because of the knowledge and the processes. So again, we want a team where everyone cares. Helps, onboard new talent, knowing that the right process and systems in place. So, we work with some wonderful clients, and we have clients up in a regional area of Victoria. But people are coming to them wanting to work with them because of what they see and what they hear. So again, I think that's really, really important to get that happening. It demonstrates your employer of choice and you promote within. So again, in the book Good to Great of Jim Collins, it always talks about develop your people within. Right. So that means train and develop your people. Don't, try and hire somebody to come in unless you have to. That you want to try and train and develop your team within and promote them within the actual business. And I think what's really important is it adds more profit to your bottom line. So every conversation I have with the business owner, that's what they're looking for. How do I add more profit to my bottom line? Well, okay, you promote within, you develop your people, they understand the IP, and you reward them for that. So again, we see it time and time again. They employ somebody with some skill sets, which is great, but they don't understand the business from a totally different industry. And they get paid more, and it doesn't sort of go down well with some of the others within the business. And we have customers. Well, they shouldn't be talking about what salaries people are on, right? Now that's a private thing, right? So, but at the end of the day, our government has released. You are allowed to ask your colleagues, what are you getting paid? So again, I think it's important that you have some sort of process there. So I just want to talk a bit about, succession planning. Actually, May, I'll get you to talk about this and I'll do the next one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of your succession planning is being able to develop your future leaders. So how are you going to do that? You can identify them through observation. You can create an organisational chart, as Colin said, and shows the future from the strategic sessions that you've already done with the planning. You can identify future leaders through performance conversations, reviews, appraisals. What have they shown an interest in wanting to do? What skills have they naturally shown that they're good at? You can start the process of training and developing them and giving them more responsibility as well. Again, it goes back to that satisfied employee, and ensure that others around them know your intentions as a company as well. So keep those lines of communication open too.
I think, Al, when we've done reviews with staff, right, and there's a few of them, some of the conversations they have with us would be, well, what do I need to do to get to the next level?
Yeah.
Right. So that's a big one. But, the one I love the most is, Colin, so I can be more resourceful for your company. How about I go and do this course that'll up my skills, that'll also help the business as well. So again, that you've got to have that transparent conversation with your team. And I always talk about, we want to employ staff who come to work because they want to come to work, not because they have to come to work, because there's a big difference in the performance of actually how it actually all works. So, we run an emerging leaders program. So if you think about how do I get somebody to go from from an employee into a leadership role, into a manager's role, into a high leadership role, higher leader manager role. This is our process. This is a proven model that we've done. So we have, like, for an example, we run a course, Leading Self, Leading Others, Leading a Team. They're half-day courses, right? And it's all about them working on their business. And then, there's a conversation at the end, once they finish it, about succession planning. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to grow? What does it actually look like? So from that, when people have completed this course, then there's a conversation around, taking on more responsibility. And then we want to get them into an advanced program, which is around leading and managing others. So we're actually teaching them how to do that, implementing better business strategy. So they actually become part of the leadership team when they discuss strategy within the business and what they're trying to achieve, to the point where they're then managing a team, and then they're going through that leadership development to really take on more ownership of the running of the business, the profit and loss of the business, all the above. For the companies that we've implemented this through, right, those guys are running the companies, all right? And one of the things, a good to great moment for me is when someone says to me, Colin, I can go on an overseas holiday for a couple of months and knowing that my business is in good hands because we've developed the team. Yeah, we go into lots of companies, flatline structure, one owner, 10 people reporting to them
or more.
Yeah, not good, right? So again, if you want to retain, you want to grow your business, because you can't do everything, I think it's really, really important. So,
and rely on your team. You've employed them for a reason. Put the faith and trust back into them as well.
Well, you hit the magic word, which is trust, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So when we're talking about managing a team and training them, I think this is a really good thing to start having a conversation around, right? So when we talk about performance and managing expectations, well, we just have up to 5 generations coming into our workforce, right?
I think it's the first time ever too.
I think it is the first time ever, but we actually have a client, right, that has actually got these all five in the business, right? So, a baby boomer, their communication style and if I just use the word, their understanding of technology can be a bit challenging at some time, right?
That's very good.
Good way of doing it. Yeah. And then, that Gen X, which is, I'm in that category.
Same.
I always say when I left school, that was when the first computer came into a classroom, right? So we learned on the job, of technology. So again, I'm just talking about, I want to talk about 2 things, technology and communication, because we're getting into more AI, we're getting into more systems and processes now. And again, we need to actually understand that. Our millennials, the Gen Ys, well, they've got it. They just know how to make technology work within a business. And, we have all these things today of cybercrime, IT, 2-factor authentication, all the above. They get it. They understand it. Yeah. And then we've got our Gen Zs that have come in, right? And these are the guys that want your job. They want to be your manager and they want to get paid for it straight out of
And they want it now.
And they want it now. They do. So again, this part of your process is actually onboarding these people and actually educating them about the career pathway that you can take them on. And I think that's a very, very good conversation. And that last one, alpha. So again, we're starting to see now, those 15, 16-year-olds starting to enter into the workforce. And they're a different level altogether, right? So because, they're all about apps. They're all about communication through apps and all the above. So if we go back to what we started, pay increases and all the above, at the end of the day, in my opinion, right, there is no business out there that can survive without a customer. So we've got to make sure we've got really good communication with your clients, so that you're delivering on the expectation, regardless of what generation you need to go through. But I do know that those baby boomers and Gen X generations like the face-to-face communication. They like talking to people and they like to interact with people, where we're seeing more alphas in the Gen Zs don't want to have that interaction. So this goes back to your mission, vision, and values and your expectation of running your business. You should not be changing your business to mold people in that you can use some of their skill level, but they've still got to come back to what the actual true running of your business and what it's all about is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So if we put different generations, and then if we look at different nationalities, and then if we look at different personalities, for me, that could be a big ingredient for disaster, right? So, and we've been writing about this because we're seeing more and more of today of companies that are struggling with teams over personalities, nationalities, and also different generations. So it's so important that you actually set those expectations, and that can become part of your conversation in performance. You need to communicate. So, and communicate. And I'm not just talking about the younger generation, I'm talking about the older generation, right? Because we have a client, they use Slack. And what happens is the older person just puts a thumbs up on everything, right? And even if there's something that's inappropriate that shouldn't be done, he still puts the thumbs up on it. And we say, well, you can't do that. And he goes, I'm only doing that because
was acknowledging
I'm just acknowledging that I've actually read it. So again, that is part of your onboarding and setting those expectations. Should people be rewarded? Yes. Should your team be doing what you want them to do? Yes. But you need to make sure that you're doing something so they actually can understand the power of what you're trying to achieve, working with different personalities, different nationalities, and also different generations. So it's a great conversation. We play lots of games around this with our clients to actually deliver some good messages. But as you can see there on those personalities, and if anyone wants to know more about that, please give us a call, because we do lots of personality workshops and generation stuff. And what that does do is it talks about why we need to work better together as a team. So again, management observation, normally what's in one of the KPIs or what we recommend is teamwork and following business processes. Again, so if your people are not following them, then maybe that's a conversation around the remuneration that you want to give them, but you can't give them because they're not actually doing it. That's the point that I actually want to make. Is there anything you want to add to that?
I know.
I nailed it, didn't I? I think I nailed it. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then again, I think what's important is, again, doing some sort of engagement survey of your team, right? So to me, I feel that, if we want to grow a business and we want to reward our team, then let's find out, let's put a thermometer into the business and find out how people are feeling. Do they understand your strategy, where you've got strategy, or maybe you might not have strategy, or you've got it, but no one understands it? Do you have a lot of high action activity in your business or low action activity in your business? Which part of the quadrant are you on this particular wheel? So by finding that information out will help you identify how you're running as a business. Are you a good business? Are you employer choice? Are you at any risk for any psychosocial or anything like that as well? I think it's very, very important doing some sort of engagement survey and test the water with your actual team, because strategy matters. Yeah. And I'll look at this and go, and we do these surveys. I think our highest score last year on culture was 88%. That means that 88% of people come to work happy, and our lowest was at 42%. So you don't have to be Einstein to work out which one has the revolving door of staff running around. So again, and that makes it very hard. If you've got a problem where you've got high staff turnover in your business, that affects your cash flow, affects the output, that also affects the pay increases as well. So you need to do something that's going to try and help your team members feel like they're particularly valued. All right, Al, this is your baby. You can talk about this. Yep.
So for the first, I think this is the first time in many years where the government has decided to introduce new legislation that's applicable to all size businesses. So normally when something new comes in, small businesses get the first 12 months to kind of, get their way around it. Not for Payday Super. Payday Super is going to come into effect from the 1st of July for every single employer within this country. So what that means is all of your super contributions that you hold for your employees, no longer will you be able to pay them monthly or quarterly as you would be doing now. They must be processed at the same time that you process wages, whether that's weekly, fortnightly, or monthly. And then you have 7 days for those funds to hit the employee's superannuation account. There is a disclaimer there for new employees. I think it was 20 business days. So you've got a one-off exception, not again. So you've only got one time you can get it right. You've got that 20-day business day exception for new employees as well. It is a legal requirement, and Big Brother is always watching, as we know, and your payroll programs will be reporting back to the ATO that they already do, and they'll be reviewing this information moving forward as well. So we've already seen that they're going to be quite stringent. So if this is a concern for you, obviously this is a very important conversation that you would need to have with your accountant, and make sure you do it really quickly. we're already halfway through June. It's not long to go until then.
And it's very stressful. I can say, we talk to lots of owners. They're very stressed about this, on how we do it, because cash flow is, some of them is not the best at the moment. So again, we're going to start changing the way we do things, or how we're going to charge our clients, maybe more upfront or whatever it may be. But what's important is, it's 2 weeks away, and you need to be ready for it. And the ATOs, they already know. They could already go in and have a look right now, know who are the companies that are going to struggle and who are the companies not going to struggle.
Yeah.
But if that is a concern to yours, please give us a call, because it's very, very important that you put some sort of strategy behind this and what you're actually going to do to actually make it work.
And if you don't get a bookkeeper or an accountant to do your wages for you and you do it in-house, make sure that your payroll program has been updated. It's no good just saying that there are actual updates from every single payroll program available, that you need to make sure that you have made those changes as well.
Yeah, how you do that, I've looked at that. So if you actually go into your super account, it'll tell you it's already activated. So that's really important. Okay, all right. So do we have any questions? So feel free to put some questions in either the chat box or the questions. We're here, and we're happy to take a few questions. But I've got some examples. I've actually got 5. Is there 5 questions? I've got 5.
You had 4. I added 1.
There you go. Beautiful. So. What happens if someone wants more money than the business can afford? Now, that's a really good question, right? So, it depends on whether there's a threat or not that comes through. So we see it where, employees walk in, they threaten the owner or the manager. If you don't pay me more, then I'm going to leave, right? So, so what's some of our strategies around that? Well, I think what's important, this is how I would answer it, is it's really important that, you share with the team, your numbers on how you're performing as a company, right? And you can always take it back to that conversation. You might want to say, well, I can't afford to give you an increase, but what I can do is put in some sort of bonus system, try and make that work. There's nothing worse when a staff member holds a gun to your head, and we've seen that, and it's happened to me over the years. And again, those people most likely will move on, and that's okay. But you've got to do what the business can afford to do, and I'll say not be dictated to, right? But just don't do anything stupid like go and get an aeroplane or something like that. Like, I think it's important. But that strategy, that open, transparent conversation with your team, I think is really, really important. What's the next one, Al?
So how do you have a conversation around a pay increase when someone randomly approaches demanding a pay increase because they can't afford to live due to inflation, interest rate rises, etc.? And we've heard this for the last 18 months in particular, but also around COVID times as well. I think it goes back to those really robust and open conversations from the business owner's side, and just without going into the nitty-gritty and the finer details, you can say, well, we're traveling well, but the cash flow is not there, or whatever it might be. And everything has gone up, and that also impacts the business as well. So it's not just people and their personal expenditure and their finances, it also impacts the business and their finances. So you might need to try and flip the script a bit there and say, I hear you. Unfortunately, we are also in the same boat. This is something that we obviously don't dismiss the conversation. I think that would be the worst thing you could do, but make sure that you say, okay, you are being heard. I am listening to you. However, we're not in a position right now, but this is what we can do, and put some steps in place and make sure you follow through with them. Again, goes back to those, don't make promises that you can't keep, or commitments that you're not going to follow through on.
Yeah.
As well.
And if anyone's done any strategy work with me, one of the things I always encourage, if you're going to do reviews, you do it, so how does your business operate? Calendar year or financial year? Ours runs financial year. So we do our budgeting in, May, June, ready for having conversations with increases come July. So again, so if someone come to me and says, oh, I want a pay increase in April, I said, well, and one of the things I've said, we'll do our reviews. We do it all in July, and I'll say to them straight out, like, if we were exceeding our targets and really killing it, I wouldn't have a problem doing it right now, but we're not, and you know that. So that's when it's going to be. And so I think it's important you to have that transparent conversation, because it is a bit tough out there, and we're seeing more and more companies lose people and not replacing them. So that just goes to give you, and restructures are the big thing for us. So that just goes to show you what's coming in the next, what I think the next 6, 12 months, even 2 years for that matter. Okay, the next one's around what's another way you can reward staff that is not a formal pay increase. Well, I spoke about that throughout the webinar, putting some sort of bonus system in where it's valued. You might want to also give like a well-being day off, or create some, we give everyone a birthday off. They can choose 5 days either side of their birthday, because if it lands on a weekend, there are other ways that you can reward your team. As well, I think it's important that you've got to come up with something. I think is important again, because we're trying to, we want to look after the well-being of our team, and we want to make sure that they feel rewarded and feel valued within the business. What's that next one?
How do you introduce some sort of bonus structure that the staff value? This can be a bit tricky to get going. Obviously, again, it's trying to reduce the gap between both sides, but obviously speak to your financial humans, your bookkeepers, your accountants, make sure that it's something that the business can afford, but then make sure you get the buy-in from the team and run it by them, make sure that they're on side as well. And it needs to be fair as well. So,
and look, I'm happy.
Realistic.
Yeah, realistic. Yeah, and I'm happy to have a conversation, because we do lots of them. And I think, like a bonus structure. So, there's some people do it on percentage, some people do it on a fixed bonus. You can work that out. Some companies have the more you bring in, the more you actually can make, So again, it's what's best suited for your business, I think, is important. But I also do recommend it is verified by your accountant as well, because at the end of the day, you should be using them to help you for that advice. And then last one is, why am I earning less than my colleagues? So I'll let you answer that one, Al.
Yeah, thank you. So, and again, this comes back to the pay secrecy laws that we introduced. Everyone can talk to anyone about what they're earning, or give any information about how to be able to calculate what they're earning. So, I guess number one is be fair with how you organise the remuneration of your team. But if you've got, example, a brand new person with no IP in the business and they're new at the role, they may not be as efficient or knowledgeable in what they're doing, then somebody else who's been in the role a lot longer, they can obviously earn a lot more, because they have earned their stripes, so to speak. So don't be afraid to have those conversations, but make sure that you're fair and reasonable when you do have them as well.
It's the open and transparency. That's what it is. Okay. Just before we finish up, it's in with the publishers, so we're not far away now. And I've written this book, Your Business Beyond Tomorrow. Either you run your business or it'll run you. And it's got a lot of the stuff that we spoke about today, about developing leadership within your business and being an employer of choice and stuff like that. And one thing I'm most happy about is, we talked about it's a lot of stress for small business owners. So Beyond Blue have a mental health program for business owners, dedicated for business owners, with professionals there. And we want to support that. So all the profits from the book actually going to go to Beyond Blue, because we see lots of customers that we talk about the shout bag in this business. We'll be a shout bag where they really unload and let their frustrations out about how they're actually feeling in running their business. So that's yet to come. And you know what? As I said, all the profits are going through. So we have made the start when it comes to donating to the book. And my goal is in the next 2.5 years to raise 50 grand for that cause. So stay tuned for a bit more of that. And next, a lot of webinars. We actually have webinars and workshops. We've got a hybrid or in-person emerging leaders workshop, which is on the it's not the 15th. 15th of July. Sorry, I'm looking at it's June. Yeah, 15th of July. That's today. Yeah. We also have another free webinar, 5 ways to increase sales revenue for the financial year. And then we've also got a public workshop around customer engagement, because I think, again, we've got, if you want to have a point of difference in the world of today, you've really got to get that customer engagement. So for more information, or want to learn some more, or you want to download some stuff off our website, feel free to go to our website. There's stuff on strategic planning, HR best practice, employer engagement surveys. There's a heap of information. There's also a heap of information of our old other webinars that we've done that you might find useful. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of Allyson and I for attending. If you do like what we've gone through and it's been of value, then give us a Google review. Why not? Because that helps us attract more clients to our business, which is what everyone wants in any business. So I just want to say on behalf of myself, I want to say thank you, Al.
Thank you, everyone. And if you've got any questions regarding today's webinar or pay rates at all, don't hesitate to give us a buzz.
Yep, wonderful. And that concludes our webinar, and you have a wonderful week and a great finish to the end of the financial year.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Bye.